just want to show you something I've been scratching my head about all weekend. So you notice the arrows on the pedal assist sensor. It says, you know, here the poles should be going in a clockwise direction. So I installed it. You know, here's the here's the sensor and here are the poles. And I installed them just so. And when you turn it, nothing happens. Nothing happens. And I just thought, you know what? I wonder if what would happen if I had it going the other way. So I flipped this thing around so it's clearly anti-pedal direction. And now it's kicking on. Is that the weirdest thing you've ever seen? Works great now. It's like pressed against this disc too. They say usually keep about 3 millimeters between those two, but they are pretty much spaced exactly. And just so this one doesn't kind of pop out and go too far over, I found some washers that I'll put in there. I'll just kind of put some spacers, maybe just one of these spacers, I don't know, so that there is a little gap, just so it won't kind of push over. So I am right now prepping all of these wires to be soldered. I am stripping them. I'm going to tin them next. I have got each of the extension cables I measured, and it looks like they're all going to work. I've got heat shrink tube ready to go so I can slip that on. Don't forget heat shrink tube, that's important. And then here is the LCD, and here are the wires that are going to go through the extension. I have my notes of what's going to connect to what, because it's 5 wires. This one's 3, this one's 2, so I thought, okay, let's just combine them all together. And I am going to snip these so that I didn't forget. I labeled each one on both sides of the snip so that everything will go right together. This one's cable B for the brake and cable B for the throttle, and they're going to come together in the extension and then meet up on the other side. So we just put the extension cables on everything, and everything has the length it needs. Daisy's testing the throttle. We did put an extension on that. This is the brake. We put an extension on that. Here is the LCD display, and that also has an extension cable on it. And I'm going to do the pedal assist sensor. And it works. And then I let go, and it stops. And then Daisy hits the gas.
If I stop, it stops. Oh my gosh, that's cool.
Okay, go. Oh my gosh. Okay, we've got the 48 volt system converted to 12 volt for the speakers, the lights, and we've got it staying 48 volts for the pedal assist motor. All we need to do now is put those spokes on, put the rim on, and we have a pedal assist double bench Surrey.
How cool is that?
So cool. Look at it go. Look at it go.
Walk in circles, walk in circles, walk in circles in the birthday boy.
I've got all of the wires nice and cleaned up, and they are all running to where they need to go. I have my brake sensor, so there's a tiny little magnet in here, which I epoxied with this Harbor Freight 2-part epoxy, and then I also put heat shrink around it, and I did the same with this, the sensor part of it, so that when they come together they activate. And I made sure that they do actually activate, because when you release it, there's a little warning sign, and then when you put it back, it goes away. So that is all locked in place. That's not going anywhere, and that's a really good mechanism. The one part that I don't have fully installed yet is the thumb throttle, and the reason I don't have the thumb throttle in place yet is because, again, it doesn't open up to unlock like this. They expect you to just slide this onto your handlebar. Well, that's not the setup I have here. So I'm thinking I'm actually going to get like a handlebar extension and just clamp it to this one maybe, and just have it kind of hang below. I've got my hand on the throttle, and I can make this thing go, go, go. and then also by the pedal assist sensor, now that we have that wiring figured out. I ended up having to make it the sensor backwards and this thing backwards. So 2 wrongs make a right, and now when I pedal forwards, it activates the motor. Underneath the front bench, I also have this 48 volt to 12 volt buck converter in line. Nice, it has its own fuse, so it runs in 48 volts, gets converted to 12 volts, and so I'm running the 12 volt lighting system off of 48 volts, bucked down to 12 volts. Here is the controller. It is just mounted to the bottom of the back seat. I just got this at Home Depot. It's just like a terminal block, and I didn't use all the terminals. I used 6 of them, 2 of them for power in, actually 3 of them for power in, because one takes little jaunt over to this little guy. So that fuse, all I have to do is just push the button, and it's like a GFCI outlet, right? I just kill the power to it, or if I want to turn it back on, I just re-engage it. And then of course I've got my 3 hall wires, and then the negative wire coming in. I do need to clean up the wires that I've got running to the dashboard. I did kind of overestimate the dashboard wires, which is a good thing. I wanted to extend the wires, but in the meantime I did make them essentially way too long, and I think I'll just kind of tuck them under next to the controller. For now, this is just, they're sort of wound up. I'm going to call my friend Alex in Virginia who does this for a living, and I'm going to see what his situation is. I have the motor, I just don't have the right rim or 28T freewheel. So I'm going to get back to you on that one, what I need to end up doing for that. So the other thing I wanted to show you is the battery box. This used to be the 12 volt battery, the SLA batteries. It is now the 48 volt battery. Let me take the cover off so you can see. This is now that gimundous 48 volt battery, 50 amp hour lithium iron phosphate. What I ended up doing is I took some of these cables that came with it, and I made it like a quick release for the battery. So if I wanted to take this entire box inside, all I need to do is separate this connector right here, and all of this can go back into the house or whatever. I did need to make a modification for this. It needed its own separate charging system, so I put the charger that came with the battery right here, and all I need to do is pop the other side of it from the wall straight in here. It still has this great little switch. I'm loving this switch. I'm so glad we have it. And that is connected, of course, to the positive terminal. Turn on the positive terminal, and we've got power going to both the motor and the buck converter for the lighting and all that. Yeah, anyway, I'm stoked about this. The rim is here. The freewheel is here. Let's open it up and see. Got it from my friend Alex in Chesapeake, Virginia. BeachSurrey.com. We've had a lot of good talks about hub sizes and manufacturing, all sorts of things. So I'm excited to get this open and see. Cool. Oh, that's awesome. He sent me some Beach Surrey swag. Oh, that's great. Very cool. Thank you, Alex. All right. Here is the new freewheel. Check that out. So it's the perfect threading, same as I have on my existing one. This way it spins, this way it tightens. So it will just continue to tighten as you pedal. Oh, cool. So he sent me an example spoke just so I could compare the thickness. The size, I don't know if is the right size. Yeah, it's the perfect size for a Surrey without a hub motor. It would fit actually my original hub just fine. The spokes I got are a touch thinner, just a little bit thinner. This one is a 12 gauge. Typical bike spokes are 14 gauge. I believe this one is either 10 gauge or even 8 gauge. It's nice and thick. The 12 gauge is about 3 millimeters. This one is a solid 4 millimeters. Nice, big beefy rim. That is a chonky rim. Look at this thing. Okay, 36 spokes. This is what we need. As long as these are the right size, as long as I calculated the size correctly, then we will be just fine lacing this hub.
I used the online spoke calculator from Grin Technologies to estimate how long my spokes needed to be. After careful measuring and inputting the numbers, then measuring again, I found that my 36 spokes needed to be 114.5 millimeters. They had 114 and 115, so I rounded down. I really could have gotten the 115 instead.
I was really concerned about the size of these, but as far as I can tell, unless these four somehow are completely wrong, all of them are just perfectly lined up in terms of size. I have had a couple of these nipples, sorry, that's actually the name of them, that have like cross-threaded or felt like just really stiff. Like this one just doesn't want to go on, but once I put grease on it and I kind of like muscle it on, then I think it will go on a little easier. You have to put on some kind of lubricant, some kind of grease on there, and then when you slip the spoke into the nipple, they aren't gonna seize later on. There, that's got it. See, this is the one that was giving me trouble, so now that it has grease on it and it's perfectly lined up, me muscling it in like this is working perfectly. So. All right, this took a long time, but I've got all of the spokes on. I had to kind of revisit some of those spokes. I haven't trued the spokes yet, but they're on and they're tight enough. And I will give them all one last tighten when I see it on the truing stand. And by truing stand, I mean I'm gonna put it back on the fork up on my little jack of Home Depot buckets. Sadly, I do also need to cut off that little bit because the width of this entire axle, I think we're pretty much there. We're gonna pump up this tire and do a little cutting, and then it will be ready to run. The hub motor is on, it's connected. All we need to do is pedal now. You ready? Mm-hmm. Okay. Here it again.
You're going awful fast.
That was so much fun.
I used the throttle to pedal us home. So the chain fell off. I'm gonna have to realign the chain, but I was able to get us home using the throttle instead of the pedal assist. So I've got the little throttle right here.
Is that why you were going so fast?
That we were cruising up the hill. I'm in pedal assist mode 3 right now.
Ooh, yeah. I'm thinking 1.